I mean, that's tough traveling. And so maybe that was another plan. All that to say, and then Herod, remember after Jesus was born, what did he do? I'm going to kill every kid 2 years old and younger. I want to make sure that there's no king. So this dragon was always trying to take out Jesus. But he failed. He failed. And it says he was taken up into heaven. And of course, that's when he was taken up after his resurrection. And so here we go. Now that the dragon turned his fury, he wanted to come after the nation of Israel. Now, in chapter 12, they talk about a war in heaven. Michael and the angels fighting Lucifer and his angels, his demons. And they're fighting. And basically, they had limited access to heaven before this time. If you read Job chapters 1 and 2, they were there. And, and Satan would go to heaven and accuse the saints. Say, hey, you see what he said, she said, they did? And he would always accuse them. But now, they actually were all out war. And basically, Satan and his forces were defeated. And they were thrown out, kicked out of heaven, done. But so, he turned his fury onto the earth. Someone wrote and said maybe he was so mad because when the church was taken up off the earth, they had to pass through the air. And Satan's called the prince of the power of the air. And so he saw all these saints going, he goes, wait a minute, what's going on here? And maybe he just got flat out mad. And so he said, I'm going to take it out on the earth. And so that's what he started to do. And so the Messianic kingdom was now very close. And you see in chapter 12, they started singing a praise song. And this is the song that was coming from heaven. The salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Messiah have now come. The kingdom is right at the doorstep. Jesus is coming back. Still have 3.5 years, but it's right there. And so he says, because the accuser of our brothers has been thrown out, the one who accuses them before our God day and night. And that's what Satan does right now. He accuses us before God. Y'all seen the shows in the courts, right? You've seen the prosecutor, the defender. Well, he did, and he said, get on the stand, I'm going to cross-examine you, and this and this and this. Satan is always accusing us right now. But here is where it stops. But you know what's good right now? Is that we have an advocate. We have a defense attorney. Satan's the prosecutor, but we have a defense attorney. Who do you think that is? Judge Judy? Matlock? Oh boy, showing your age now. Perry Mason. Oh, that goes way back. Who's our defense attorney? Just say it. Jesus Christ. He's our defense attorney. And so, here we go. But Jesus defends us, and Satan cannot win against him. And so, this is their song. And then they said, they conquered him, thrown out of heaven for good. They conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. For they did not love their lives in the face of death. These are the martyrs. These are the ones that stood up and stood on their faith and said, no matter what you do to us, we are following Jesus Christ. And that's how Satan is defeated, when believers stand in faith and follow him. And then they said, therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the earth, not woe in G and Paul, not that. It's bad times are really coming now. They said, woe to the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you with great fury, because he knows his time is short. He has 3.5 years. And so he's going to lay it out on the earth. He is just so mad that here he comes. And so, as he comes, basically the woman, Israel is persecuted. Basically, the dragon saw that basically he'd been thrown to the earth. He persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. Now what happened was, the persecution starts, all through history. The nation of Israel has been persecuted and dissolved and regathered in 1948. It still, is it under pressure today? Do you know everybody in Israel has to have military training because of the threats that they have on all sides of them? And so they all are ready. They all are prepared. But God is protecting the nation of Israel, even in this time. Even though that Satan wants to basically take out his vengeance on the nation of Israel, God is still protecting them. And he said, rejoice, because he is protecting you. And he's talking about when you get persecuted, he's talking about perseverance. Hey, you that are going to suffer for your faith, persevere, stick it out. It's worth it. Keep on going. There's a missionary family in a place out in the bush, and one day they came into their house and they saw a very, very large snake, like a python, probably 20 feet long. Y'all ever seen a 20-foot long snake? They're big, and they're usually about that big around. Looks like a wall. Anyway, this couple went into their house. Here's this snake. Now, what would you do if you saw a 20-foot snake in your house? Leave. Fast or slow? Fast. Okay. Well, that's what this couple did. They left their house pretty fast. And they were living nearby, and there was a village nearby. And they went over and they told the people what's going on. Well, this one guy, he just picked up his machete and he just walked into that house. He found that snake and cut the head off. I mean, just took it clean off. But he said, all right, you need to be aware, this snake doesn't know it's dead yet. Because they said for hours, that snake was just still moving and thrashing, destroyed their furniture, destroyed all these things. And eventually, after hours, it quit. And basically, this is like Satan. He just doesn't know he's dead yet. And so he's going to take it out on the earth. And so here we go. So basically the woman's persecuted, but she gets deliverance, taken up on wings of eagles. And that's a way of God saying, I'm going to take you out of these problems in this persecution. I'm going to get you away, out from the danger, out of harm's way, so that you can be protected. But what happens is that Satan goes after those, says it in there, that Satan goes after those who keep his commandments and who testify about Jesus. And this is all the way through history. That's who Satan goes after. And then he said, it's talking about, and basically he sends a flood. Now some people think maybe it's a literal flood, but more it's, again, through history, the flood of hate, anti-Semitism, everything going against Israel, everything going against the believers. That's the flood. But basically, and at this point in time, they think maybe it's actually talking about an army that goes against Israel, but there's an earthquake, and they think that maybe this earthquake will take out all these armies. There's been a few earthquakes with the trumpets and the seals, and all this has been going on the first 3.5 years. And so, Israel is preserved even through this. So, now we're going to see. We see the dragon, the fiery red dragon, red meaning death. And remember we talked about Satan. Jesus said in John 10:10, Satan, his job, his motive is to steal, kill, and destroy. That's all he's here for, is to steal, kill, and destroy. And so now he's going after. So the dragon is set up. But now he's going to bring in another person into this mix. And basically in chapter 13, you're going to see the rise of the Antichrist, the person who is against Jesus Christ. So, this Antichrist is going to be a person. But basically, he is going to be energized by Satan. Satan is going to enable him to do these different things. And so, we have the dragon, Satan. We have now the Antichrist. He's called the beast. This word means that basically, he is like a wild animal that's being contained. He's being controlled. Many people think that this person is going to come out of Europe. There's going to be a 10-country coalition in Europe, and he's going to come out from there because Europe will also signify the old remnants of the Roman Empire. And he's going to come out of here. And they think he's going to be a great orator. He's going to be a great persuader. Have you heard people that have done that and spoken? And you think, wow, they're really good. Man, I don't know what they said, but they really sounded good. You never had that before? And so, he's going to have strength, he's going to have charisma. They describe him as basically like a lion, like a bear, and like a leopard. Those are the descriptions. Remember, we heard those terms back in Daniel about the different nations. And basically now we're seeing that this guy is going to have all these characteristics. And he's going to be that type that the world is going to follow. Because they're looking for something. They're looking for relief. And so, but he suffers a head wound. Then he's killed in the midst of all this. And remember, 3.5 years he was bringing peace. But now he suffers a head wound. Somebody wants to take him out. And so they do give him a head wound. Later on you see in Scripture that says it's like a sword. And so he gets a head wound, he apparently dies. But the dragon, using deception, gives him a quote-unquote false resurrection. And he's brought back to life. And so everybody then goes, whoa, whoa. This guy was dead and now he's alive again. And so that really cements that popularity and that, basically, that worship. And now all who worship the dragon and the beast because of this this deception, and also the world peace, basically, Satan started going after, and this Antichrist, the beast, they start going after the believers who are there. Basically, it says that all not written in the book of life of the Lamb who was slaughtered worship the dragon, worship the beast. Now we talk about that book. Basically a book that God has. He has recorded the people that have believed, and he knows who is going to believe in him. And he said all those people who were not written in that book, that's who Satan and the dragon, those people, they're going to worship the dragon and the beast. But then they're going to go after the ones not worshiping him. And so basically, this means again that the true believers, they need perseverance and faith. They don't want to fall away. And so here we go. We have the dragon, Satan. Then we have the Antichrist, who is ruling the world. And then we have another person who shows up in chapter 13. And this person is known as the false prophet. Now, it's showing where the Antichrist had 10 crowns, and he had all these. This false prophet, this one is looking like a lamb. And he has 2 small horns. And have y'all seen lambs? They have sometimes two little nubs. Well, this false prophet is going again to come from the Gentile nations. But he's not going to be as great as Antichrist. That's why he says it's a lamb. And it's almost like, basically, he can almost portray being a false savior. Because Jesus is known as the Lamb of God. And so this guy comes as a picture of a lamb, like a false savior. Whereas the Antichrist is a political and a military leader. This person, the false prophet, will be the religious leader. And so they're going to be working together. Now, the lamb comes, and he looks like, aren't lambs cute? Y'all ever give your kids a little lamb for Easter? Lindsay, do you give them live ones or just stuff?
They play with it.
Okay, they play with it. But, a little lamb, live board stuff, they're so cute. But this guy spoke like a dragon. Now, can you imagine? Just think about that for a second. Little nice lamb, and it has this dragon-like voice that comes out, commanding respect and authority. And so, basically, this person is powered by Satan also. And he influences all people to worship the beast. This guy performs miracles. Or the best way we could say it, he can call down fire from heaven. He copies what the 2 witnesses were doing. Do you remember that scenario back in Egypt? When God told Moses, go in, tell Pharaoh, let my people go. And Moses said, who am I? I can't do it. I stutter, this and that. And God said, all right, you do these things, these miracles, and they'll believe you. Well, Moses did those things, but the magicians tried to copy, and did at some point copy some of the things Moses did. But it was through deception. But this false prophet is going to do some things like that. Fire from heaven, different things. But he also, because of the beast, the quote-unquote false resurrection, the beast, what the false prophet is going to do is make an idol, a statue of the beast. And this is the abomination of desolation talked about in Daniel. He's going to put that idol, that statue, in the middle of the temple in Jerusalem. And this is when the Jews know it's time to get out of Dodge. Because when that happens, that's not a good sign. And so this Antichrist, his statue is in the temple. The false prophet is having everybody worship this idol. The false prophet can also, and he does this, he gives that idol a spirit. Now, I would think it would have to be an evil spirit, a demon. And this idol can talk. Wouldn't that freak you out? If an idol could talk? We came to Washington, D.C., Washington Dulles Airport one time and we read about this. We picked up our luggage and there's a hologram in there. Hi, welcome to Washington Dulles Airport. No, we're going, whoa, what is this? I mean, this hologram is standing right there as you're taking your luggage into the customs area. I go, okay, this is spooky. I don't like this, but anyway, this idol is going to be able to talk, and if you don't worship it, this idol is going to be able to take you out, kill you on the spot if you don't worship it. And the false prophet is enabling this, giving that's a spirit to this idol. He's going to be able to do this. He's going to make it that way. And then it says in this chapter, it doesn't matter if you are a standing president, you are a multi-billionaire, or you are the lowest person on the economic pole. Everyone is going to have to worship the beast. And they're going to give you a mark. Now, a lot of y'all have heard about this mark, right? Mark of the beast. They said either on your hand or your forehead. Now, there are things in place now. In 1994, I went as a volunteer to Tanzania before we went full time. And we flew in and out of the Schiphol airport in Amsterdam. And I found out, as I was talking with some people, when you travel internationally, you have to have your passport. You have to get it stamped when you exit a country and stamped when you enter a country. And when you go back, same deal. Stamp exit, stamp entry. But at Schiphol Airport, it's like basically the Atlanta of Europe. It's the major hub. And so at Schiphol, there are many people who go through there every day, sometimes multiple times a day. In 1994, had retinal scans. You know what retinal scanning is, right? You just walk up to the machine, it scans your retina in your eye, and that serves as your passport. Boom, you don't have to pull out your passport. Oh, you're already registered. You're done. You don't have to worry about it. And then, now they talk about facial recognition software. And now we have Verichips. Have y'all heard of Verichips? Some people in Sweden, some people here in America, they have embedded in their arms is a little chip, a biochip. And they can walk up and basically scan their forearm to a door. Now, many of them have a PIN number with that, but they just scan their forearm, boom, you're in. It's now. These things are happening now. And there's an article now about surveillance. Y'all know about surveillance, right? In Atlanta, Georgia, they have over 11,000 cameras throughout the city. Now, not all of those are put by the city of Atlanta. Basically what they have done is they've gone into systems of people who have put their own security cameras and they've linked them all. So now Atlanta has 11,000 cameras. Y'all seen the shows on TV, right? Oh, we hacked into the city cameras and all this stuff, and we can follow these people. They're doing it in Atlanta right now. But in Beijing, China, their goal is to monitor everybody in the country by next year. In the Beijing area province, 800,000 surveillance cameras. And they're saying that not only can they look at people, they will read your facial expression and determine your emotions and your mood. Oh, that's a troublemaker right there. They're up to no good. Oh, they're a model citizen. That's in Beijing, China, right now. And so I was also reading an article. Did you know that they have, just one more thing, they have basically a program called eHall Pass or Class Dojo. And this Class Dojo program, by the way, claims to be in use in 90% of K through 8 schools in the United States right now. According to the article, this app lets teachers communicate with parents and grant students virtual points for positive behaviors like teamwork or subtract them for negative actions like being out of their chair. Wouldn't you love that? They say it's in 90% of the schools now. But talking about surveillance and about these things, many people, basically this article says, it turns out that most people will choose security over privacy if they have the choice. So, here are some more things being put in place. So you have the dragon, Satan. You have the Antichrist, that military political leader. You have the false prophet, who is a religious leader. They're all working together, energized by Satan, to make people worship them and go after them. And basically, and the last part of that chapter says, and the way you know about this is the number 666. And there have been myriads of things written. What do these numbers mean? What does it mean? How are these things? Basically, the summary I could get is that we see the number 7 in the book of Revelation, basically the number of completion. The 7 seals, the 7 trumpets, where it's the 7 bowls. But it's all 7s, perfection, number, God saying it's done, complete. 6, 6, and 6. What is that? How many short of 7? Y'all still know your math? 1. It's 1 short of 7. 1 short. And so, we have Satan, who's 1 short. He wanted to be like God. He's 1 short. The Antichrist, basically wanting to mimic Christ, to counterfeit Christ. He's 1 short of being Christ. And the false prophet, trying to mimic the Holy Spirit, he's 1 short of being the Holy Spirit. So that's it, the number of man, 6, 6, 6. By the way, that is the unholy Trinity. We have the Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. But we have the unholy Trinity here, the dragon, Satan. We have the Antichrist, the beast. And then we have the false prophet. The unholy Trinity. And they're going after him. And then we see, in the next chapter, basically, we see the 144,000. We saw them about a week or 2 ago. And they were the ones that were the remnant. They were going out to all the earth. They were the evangelists, telling the people about Jesus Christ. And now they're in heaven singing. Apparently, their job's been done. They've been martyred, and they're all in heaven singing a song that only they can sing because it's their song. And they're worshiping God. And basically, they also say, these people, they're singing their own song. They basically did not say anything false, and they did not worship any idols. It talks about they were not basically sexually immoral, which those practices are connected with idol worship. They didn't give in. And so basically they're worshiping God and saying, here we are. And they're saying to the ones who are still left, the believers who are still on earth, hey, persevere, keep on going, because basically it's worth it. And basically when you are martyred for your faith, your works will follow you. Basically the influence of their witness will keep on the earth. And so we see, basically, at the end of chapter 14, we see there's 3 angels that come into the picture. And they start flying. And they're going. One angel basically is flying about and he's saying, fear God, worship the Creator of all. He's giving people another invitation to follow God, to accept Him. And then the second angel goes out and he says, woe is Babylon. Basically, Babylon is fallen. Not just talking about a city, it's talking about the worldwide economy. We'll see that next week, where basically the beast has taken over the entire economy of the world. And Babylon, which was the free trade economy, is fallen. It's no more. It's all under the Antichrist. And so the angel saying, woe to Babylon is fallen. It's going to collapse because of the beast. And then the third angel, he goes out. And he's talking about there are judgment. If you worship the beast, if you worship the dragon, you are going to suffer the judgment of God. You still need to come to Him. You still have an opportunity to come. But if you don't, then you are going to face God's wrath. Now again, there are people who don't like to talk about God's wrath. They want to talk about God's love. And God does love. But they're going to face God's wrath if they don't come, especially in this time. Basically, what is that? It's the full force of divine anger and unmitigated vengeance. Not impulsive, but steady, settled, merciless, graceless, and compassionate. It is the proper response of a righteous God against sin. God is still giving chances to people, but eventually the wrath of God is going to come. And they're still calling people out to Him. But there's still people that are insisting they're worshiping the beast. They're following the false prophet. They're worshiping Satan. But yet, the warning is still there. God's wrath is coming. And then, the last part of chapter 14. And you say, oh, it's about time. You've got to think. Chapter 14. Basically, what looks like is described as the Son of God. An angel comes out and he has a sickle. And he said, all right, it's time to harvest the earth. And the angel says, okay, go for it. And he basically waves the sickle and the harvest is going. Basically, it's the harvest of judgment, of wrath. And then there's an angel that comes. One angel comes out of the temple, and another angel, he then comes. He's carrying basically controls fire, and there's another angel standing there with a sickle. And he says, all right, now it's time for you to go and basically harvest these people, the wrath of God, and basically putting them into a wine press. And the wrath of God is going to be pressing down. Now, when you basically press grapes from wine press, you're pressing them to get the juice out of it. And that's what they're saying here. It's basically the wrath of God. And they're talking about the city of Jerusalem. Now remember, we said, Scripture says that the Gentiles will trample this city for 42 months. But now it's time, basically, John I think is seeing ahead a little bit about the battle of Armageddon. And the judgment's coming. And basically he sees that these armies, this battle is fought around the walls of Jerusalem. They can't get in. They're taken out at the walls. It's like these soldiers, they've come up against the city. They can't get in. And basically they're taken out. And it says that the blood, basically, because there's trenches in this area, the blood could run as much as 4 feet deep. Because there's so many slaughtered out there because they came up against Jerusalem. They said up to the horses' bridles, which is approximately 4 feet deep. Can you imagine how many bodies it would take to make blood flow in the trenches that deep? But these are the people who still are rebelling against God, following the beast, following the false prophet, worshiping Satan. They're still coming up against God. They don't want to repent. And basically, it's 184 miles of 4 feet deep. That's a long way. What's Columbia? 65 miles from here, 70? I mean, if you drive from Charleston to Greenville, that's what? I don't know how many miles. It's more than 184, but can you imagine from that length, blood, because of the people? Basically, God is love, and He has a holy love. Not one based on sentimentality. To be consistent with His own character, He must justly deal with sin. Now, God repeatedly warns sinners today of impending judgment and gives opportunities to repent and to turn back to Him. And even in this tribulation time, He's still calling people to Himself. Y'all drive the interstates, right? You drive the roads. More than you like sometimes, right? What happens? You drive there and you see this sign. And what does it say? Right lane closed a half mile ahead. So what do you think? Okay, it's closed. So what? All right. And you're still in the right-hand lane. Don't you love those people who stay in the right-hand lane until they get to the point where there is no more right-hand lane? And they say, oh, I need to get in now. Don't you just love those people? Don't you just smile and say, oh, I love you. You ain't getting in front of me. That's what you say, right? We were in a situation like that. I forgot where on the interstate, and the traffic was bumper to bumper. And it was the same deal. The lanes closed up ahead. And so, and guess what? You know, we were in the left-hand lane, and guess what in the right-hand? And all of a sudden, there was no. Kept waiting. I looked in my mirror. There was no. It was so neat. A semi had pulled over, and he was straddling both lanes. I said, "This is cool," and it didn't happen. But you see, right-hand lane closed, or slow down construction, or those are warning signs, giving you information. That's what God continues to do today, to give people warning signs. Hey, there's still time. There's still time. Let's bow our heads, please. The choice is yours. Do you know Him as Lord and Savior? Do you know Him? You can know Him today. I'm going to stand right by this table, right down here. And if you'd like to come and talk to me about that, you'd like to come and pray, you'd like to do something, some people might want to join, I don't know. This is your opportunity to respond. Karen's going to play one verse. And what's your choice? Have you already made the choice for Jesus Christ? If you haven't, make that choice today. And if you have, then ask Him to help you, as we see with the saints, to persevere, to be faithful, to live a right kind of life that will point people to Jesus. All right, Karen, if you would play. Come and join with our fellowship. So if you would like her to be a part of this fellowship, say amen.
Amen.
And if you don't want her to be a part of this fellowship, we will talk with you outside. All right, let's stand, please. Now, if you would just stay here. These people are frightened at times. But if you would come, no, really, these guys are fantastic. If you would just come by and greet Gwen. See, I can't even say it now. Greet Gwen. Just shake her hand and say thank you for being here and being a part of us, and we're glad. Okay? So we're going to sing.
Number 194.